I work in ZBrush all day, every day, so I'm always looking for ways to optimize it for how I like to work. Many things can be saved in preferences or with projects, but not everything. That's why I save a macro that stores all of those extra settings and then make that macro run on startup. Then ZBrush just works the way I want it to without having to reset all those things every time. So let's check it out. One of the big things I always like to have is my movie settings. So I like to record turntable movies very often to send to people. Before I record the macro, I want to make sure I delete the movie that I recorded just in case it affects something with how I'm doing this. So let's go to movie, delete. I don't want to save that. That's okay. Now let's go up to macro, make a new macro. And I recommend you hit no here, even though ZBrush recommends you hit yes. Now let's go ahead and set these movie preferences. So I like to record just the document. I don't want to send people the entire interface of ZBrush. And also under title image, let's set the fade out time and the fade in time to 0 so we're not seeing any of that fade in and fade out. Then under overlay image, let's bring the opacity all the way to 0. I don't want to have the ZBrush logo on images that I'm sending to clients. Looks like everything I want. Let's go to macro, end macro. Now we want to save this in the macros folder on your ZBrush installation folder. Should be under your C drive most likely, but it might be somewhere else. Then program files, Pixelogic, ZBrush and your version number. And now let's go down to Z Startup, macros, MISC, and let's call this defaults. And actually for the purposes of this macro and how it works with the startup with ZBrush, it's very important that you call it defaults, exactly like this, all lowercase. Okay, let's save it. By default, ZBrush doesn't know to run the macro called defaults by default. We have to actually change one other thing, a special script that runs on default, and tell it to run that macro. Now, this script is something that I've edited and I saved out, and I've made it a free exercise file for everyone, whether or not you have a premium subscription. So under free exercise files, you're going to find a default zscript.txt. So let's just copy this with Control C or Command C. And let's just double click on it too. I want to open it up and show you what it looks like. So we're not going to actually edit any of this. It's pretty simple, but you can see in here I have added this one line about pressing this macro defaults. So let's go ahead and find our ZBrush installation folder. So like we did before, program files, Pixelogic, ZBrush and your version number. And this time let's go into ZScripts. And here is the script that will run on default when you start ZBrush. So I like to change the one that comes with ZBrush. Since I'm going to be putting a new one in here, I'm going to rename this one to Orig or something like that, just to help us know that if something goes wrong, we can always come back to this original one and then just rename it so it's back to the name of the original. Okay, let's hit Control V or Command V to paste the Z script that I have provided into this folder. So now this is the one that's going to run when ZBrush starts. Okay, so let's go ahead and close ZBrush. And I don't need to worry about saving any of that. And now we'll just restart ZBrush. Okay, now that we're in ZBrush, what I can do is just double click on the default dog that comes with ZBrush. And let's go to movie. We'll check this. See, yep, we've got it set to dock instead of window. Title image, 0 fade in, fade out. Overlay image, 0 opacity. And just to make sure, I'll just record a turntable there. We'll go to movie and let's play this back. Okay, that looks much better. Okay, this is really great for me because I'm recording turntables all the time, and sometimes I forget to change these settings every time, and even if I do remember, it's very tedious to go change those settings every time. So it's really great to have that set by default. It just loads, and I don't even have to remember. It just works the way I like it. Now, of course, you've probably got your own defaults that you would like to set. So when you record that macro, go ahead and make it do whatever you want it to do and save it how you like it.